Hi, everyone. Melissa and Melissa coming to you again today. We are so excited for our little chat this morning. We're going to be talking about some kind of big stuff, right? So, talking about what actually motivates us to create something better than what we're experiencing right now. And talking through some key questions that we can ask ourselves to really help walk us through, we are here, but we want to be here. How do we really understand what we need to be able to create motivation to go from here to here, right? Excited.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts and observations around this, Melissa? Because we both work with people every day who are saying, I want to be well, I want to be better, I want to do better. But then when it comes to the question of what do you want to accomplish and why, really digging into what motivates them and getting clear about why, but also why now. Yeah, those are big questions. So what are some of your observations and learnings around this?
Well, I love this too because I know I just was sharing a story with a client, but then even yesterday, I'm on like a few different like network marketing discussion pages, and someone had posted basically this notion like there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing you can do that's going to motivate your team or make them move or whatever, you know. And we this is true in all areas of life. It's human nature, and so unless someone decides they're going to make a change in anything, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
getting more discipline, changing their diet, moving their body,
Mm-hmm.
getting media scrolls, whatever, there's a bazillion things, then they're not going to do it. So just like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's like it is, the changing piece. And I know you and I were both on Tony Robbins event last week, and one of the things that I love when I'm working with clinical clients, and I actually recently started saying one of my superpowers is I'm good at recognizing patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved when he was like, we recognize the pattern so we can change it. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's exactly it. Right. But a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, I think, want to look at their patterns,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
living in a crazy day and age where people are now saying it's okay for kids to have weight loss surgery and be
Oh.
put on meds. Right. And you and I both know that is going to destroy their bodies forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can back from that stuff. Right. And so it's about how do you make that change? How do you decide you want to live differently? And it's because you want to have a better quality of life. Because you and I both know, like, you could have everything in the world, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're incapacitated, you're unhealthy, it doesn't matter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the deciding factor is like, I'm sick of how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of not having quality of life. I'm sick of
Mm-hmm.
being exhausted. I'm sick of knowing I have more potential, but am not living up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, people decide why they're doing that. If especially if people have kids, to me that should be a big thing. There's a
Mm-hmm.
great, Ed Milet was at our conference in the summer, and really he was sharing this notion of like you would die for your kids, but would you live for them?
Mm.
And you
That's a
know,
heavy hitter.
right. And so many moms, it's like, well, I don't have time to
Mm.
work out, or I'm eating what they're eating. Well, why are your kids eating crap? Like I just can't wrap my brain around like this is quicker and easier. And sure, it may be
Mm.
harder to go against the grain, but you got to choose your heart. Your heart is either that you don't feel good and you're going to constantly be battling to feel better, or you're making a choice that maybe doesn't follow what everyone else is doing, but you feel better and
Mm-hmm.
you're right. And so I just think there's all these things that people have to get clarity on, like what am I willing to do, and what is the outcome I really want. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think when you're young, you're doing dumb stuff, and maybe you're out partying every weekend, and you all of a sudden wake up and realize I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Or I think that's normal. I mean, just last week on my networking call, someone had asked why do I always feel so tired after lunch? And I didn't even say it. Someone else was like, well, what are you eating for lunch?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't want to pay attention.
Hmm.
And then if they've decided they want to, then what happens next, you know?
Hmm.
But I think the biggest thing I've learned in my journey is like, well, you know me, I'm very black and white when it comes to this stuff. So it's like as soon as I had figured out without anyone telling me, no doctor confirmed you can't have gluten. Once I figured out that's where I was getting these cysts from, I just stopped eating it.
Hmm.
There was no like, oh, okay, I'm gonna hopefully be able to eat it. It was just like I'm not ever eating gluten again on purpose.
Hmm.
So that's always been my personality, right? So, um, but for me, the cons outweigh pros. Like, so I would get what, like 5 minutes of satisfaction out of this piece of bread to then suffer for, like weeks upon weeks, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
My husband last night we were talking about this because he was like, why are people so committed to cheese? Like, it was a really hilarious statement, but it's true because,
Yeah.
whenever you tell people like dairy's not good for you, certainly not, the crap that's just mass produced. And it's like, well, I could never give up cheese. He's like, why are they so committed to cheese?
Mm. Yeah.
Like, like sure, cheese is tasty, but is it really worth, you know, your
Hmm.
health, right? So yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's a fascinating question, but people have to really ask themselves why,
Hmm.
and am I really done feeling like crap?
Yeah. 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 I've been having a lot of these types of conversations with potential clients and stuff, because I love getting to do the initial phone call and all of that, and
Yep.
really leaning into this. Like,
Yeah.
why do you want to, why are you here? Essentially, like, why are you on this call with me? And what is your intention? And what really motivated you to sign up for a call? Um, but also, why do you want to change what's happening for you in your wellness? And sometimes the question that really starts to dig a little deeper is, what's going to happen if you don't do something about this now?
Mm.
And that used to be really hard for me to ask that question. It still is sometimes, because I'm such a soft-hearted gal. I'm like, I don't want us to think about the dark and icky side of this. But what is going to happen if
Right.
you don't do something about it now? And how is that not just going to impact your life, but your family's life, your relationship with your husband or wife? What's going to happen in your world? Are you going to be able to work in 2 or 3 years? Have you already had to stop work because you're not able to sustain that? Your body isn't able to sustain it. And then thinking about, why now? What's the impetus? Like,
Yep.
what is the thumb in your back going, okay, I need to do something now, right? Those are
Mm.
hard questions.
I think what I've noticed a lot for women is like all of a sudden they'll start to notice weight gain,
Yeah.
right? Or their body's in such physical pain, like migraines,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, something
Hmm.
something like going on because I think the more subtle stuff people don't pay attention to, right?
Yeah. It's easy to
And
power through.
yes, right. And even I think sometimes like debilitating stomach aches or
Hmm.
you know, reflux, whatever stuff like that
Hmm.
isn't usually
Hmm.
enough. I do find like, yeah, I think migraines are a big one that sometimes, but I will share this. So I had a client that I was working with and she tested positive for egg, gluten, dairy, really high,
Okay.
um, chronic migraines, like every day,
Hmm. Hmm.
tons of medications, like really mirrored actually what I went through
Hmm.
around her age. Um, so, I was transparent with the mom, like, listen, this is what I
Hmm.
went through.
Yeah.
Save your kid from this. And it just really turned into like, well, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, what's harder, having a headache every single day and being medicated, feeling like crap, having to give up, and
Hmm.
even her test. most likely celiac. So she was experiencing the muscle weakness, the aches and pains, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
you, as a mother, I said, you have to realize that if you don't change this,
Mhm.
she will end up developing tumors because her body cannot break down gluten.
Yeah.
You know, my friend's mom had a tumor the size of a basketball removed from her stomach because they didn't realize she was celiac. She was having
Mhm.
stomach issues for decades. I mean, that's a huge tumor. Um,
Mhm.
you know, thankfully she's been okay since they took it out, but obviously, like, do you want to put your kid in that position? It really baffled me because I went through, gave them a list of, I had her tell me, what do you like to eat? I gave her safe alternatives,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know. So I think, you know, in those situations, I can't understand that, right? Because it's like, just,
Mhm.
what do you mean? You know, and I'm not nearly as soft hearted as you are. I just get frustrated and like, don't you want to flip? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you can easily feel better, and it
Mhm.
is small changes, especially now in today's
Mhm.
world,
Mhm.
every store has a gluten-free section and dairy-free.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
this is not like it was when,
Mhm.
I first discovered my issues. So, I
Yeah.
mean, one of my best friends, she was saying when she first got diagnosed with celiac, so she was in college, she's my age. She was like, there was nothing. And at that time, because they didn't really understand it, they were telling people they couldn't eat meat because the animals ate grain,
Mm. Okay. Interesting.
you know,
Mhm.
20. So, she and her mom both are. And so they did some different research on their own and discovered, like, okay, and just started, but there was
Mhm.
nothing purchased in a store that tasted remotely reasonable.
Right. Mhm.
So I look at it like people are in a much better position nowadays to have a lot of options.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That,
think I think when people go through that kind of a situation, especially when, like you were telling the story about the mom and the kiddo, I was going back to about 2 years ago when I worked with a young lady that was underage, and her mom, she had debilitating migraines every day. Like, we figured out what was happening and what was driving it. One of the big drivers was food for her as well, but her mom right out made fun of her for wanting to change.
mm,
And in the end, the young lady chose, because of the pressure, chose to not make the changes that she needed to, and, went forward battling that, and, taking increasingly heavy medication that was adversely affecting her. And I think about her occasionally. I'm like, I wonder how she's doing today, because,
mm,
we figured out the drivers. But I think part of it was that, and this is just my opinion, was that her mom wasn't feeling the pain, right?
mm-hmm.
Her mom was not feeling this, and it wasn't in her body. And so part of my thought with this is, if you're a parent and, we figure out what's happening with your kiddo, please help
So,
them be
yeah,
better.
and that's awful.
Don't stand in
That,
their way.
no, and make fun of them. Like, really? I'm sorry. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's what is wrong with you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you has these things going on and you have an
Yeah.
opportunity, or why would you not do that?
Yeah. But thinking about the same thing for ourselves, right? If we are battling through things like, migraines, or an autoimmune condition that's affecting our mobility, or, all of the different things that can happen, if we can figure out what is actually driving that, why would we not make the changes? But the other thing too to think about is, um, perhaps, is what do I know now? What do I need to know, and who can help me find that out? So that's
Mhm.
another question that I talk through with potential clients is, a lot of them have done their own research. They've, kind of keep hitting a wall, right? They're like, okay, I found this out, but I'm stuck.
Yep.
And then really leaning into, okay, Great. So who do you need to help you find out the information that you need?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why do you want to do that now?
Yep. Yep. Well, and it's also, yeah, are you really ready to make the changes it's going to take?
Exactly.
Being honest with yourself.
Oof, that's the one right there. Being honest with ourselves when we answer these questions. It's really hard to think about what's going to happen if I don't address this.
Well, and I think some people, interesting. One of my friends, her cousin has tested positive for celiac, then not, whatever. She just keeps eating gluten and she feels like crap.
Mm.
And, again, I cannot sympathize because I'm like, I those
Mhm.
weird cysts. One of my
Mhm.
friends noticed, like, hey, when you eat
Mm.
gluten, you get. And I was like, so I just stopped eating it, right?
Mhm.
And sure enough, then later, had kind of confirmation of that. But just the idea
Mm.
that that's a problem. And so, she keeps eating it because there's like not an affirmative decision that, that may be the case. And I'm like, the
Mm.
heck?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. You know, I can't wrap my brain around it, but to me,
Mhm.
that's people have got to get tougher, and be willing to like really hold themselves accountable. Um,
Mm. Mhm.
or my thing now is if you're not willing to, then unfortunately, I'm not going to listen to you complain. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm. Mhm.
choosing what you're not changing, you're choosing, right? So
Mm. I love that. What you're not changing, you're choosing. Ooh, that's a good
yeah.
one.
So if you're talking to someone and they have not changed the habits,
Mhm.
you keep choosing to be unwell.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know? And because we live in this world where people want a quick fix.
Yeah.
You and I both know the quick fix isn't going to have longevity in terms of how like long it lasts.
Mhm.
Also, in terms of our health and our body, like this is a marathon. It's not right.
Exactly.
So you know,
Mhm.
continually keep doing something that's hurting you.
Mm. Mhm.
You have to really ask yourself, like, why, and
Yeah.
why is it not me to feel better and take care of myself?
Mhm. I think some of that for folks, or at least this is what I'm hearing from clients once again recently, is giving themselves permission to put their wellness center focus and giving themselves permission to say, okay, I need this, saying that to their family, saying it to their work environment, making these changes to go, I need this.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
the I need is something that we've been taught, it's supposed to be, you know, we're number 3 on the list, right? It's everybody else first. And
Yep.
so it's a guilt thing, but giving themselves permission to go be in the center circle and go, okay, I need to be well. I am going to be well, and this is what I need. And then standing fast in that and making those boundaries. Yeah.
Yep.
So, what would be
Yeah.
some final words that you would like to share to folks who are in kind of in limbo going, okay, I don't like where I'm at. Actually, when I think about what is going to happen if I don't get a handle on this, it scares me. What would be some of your final words, some wisdom that you would like to share with folks who are in that spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, do you want to be well?
Mhm.
If you do, you're
Mhm.
gonna have to change what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Because nothing changes if nothing changes.
Mhm.
So you need to decide
Mhm.
and then be committed to, I'm gonna do the best I can.
Mhm.
And sure, maybe it's gonna feel a little uncomfortable at first, but with anything, it'll
Mhm.
keep getting better.
Yeah.
And then it just what you do, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but isn't it worth it to feel better?
Mm.
I know when I was in that point where I felt so crappy and I was having those headaches, like I was
Mm,
so sick and I just wanted to die. Like really, I just
mhm,
wanted to die. I
mhm.
can't do this,
Yeah,
worth it. And
yeah.
so, and nobody was talking about this stuff. And so
Mm-mm.
when, like, can I test you for food allergies? I was like, you can do whatever you like because I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But it was like, stop doing this, this, and this. I was like, okay. And
Mm-hmm.
immediately I
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so and your body will respond really quick. And then
Yes.
when you
I love
feel
that.
better, you're
Mhm.
like, well, why didn't I know
Right?
this? But
How
if
easy is this?
we have to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I remember when I was so sick too with MS, and I had no idea that you could get better. And
Mm,
I got the diagnosis, and I thought I was going to die.
mhm,
And so I kind of gave up in my head, going
mhm,
through the whole grief process of, I'm not going to get to see my kids grow up. I'm not going to see my grandkids. I'm not going to get to dance at their wedding. I'm a terrible dancer, but I'm going to do it anyway.
we're
And
gonna do it.
leaning into that. So thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing today and kind of being really transparent. And I hope this talk has really helped you guys. So if you are in that spot of, okay, I want to be well and I'm ready to figure out how to do that, you can contact either Melissa or I. Our information is going to be below this video. So please feel free to reach out. We're here to help you be well.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Melissa.
Enjoy your day.
You, Mama.